Welcome to the Explainer. So today, we're going to do something a little different. We're taking these ancient stories, really ancient, and looking at them through a super modern lens, communication theory. We're going to unpack some powerful moments from a text that's 2,000 years old and see what it can teach us, right now, about connection, understanding, and, empathy.
You know that feeling, right? When you walk into a room and you just know someone's already decided who you are before you've even said a word. It's like you've been slapped with a label. Well, we're going to explore exactly how to handle those kinds of moments, and we'll be using a really powerful communication framework to guide us.
Okay, so the tool we're using is called nonviolent communication, or NVC for short. And look, don't get thrown by the name. This isn't just about, not getting into a fistfight. It's about getting rid of the violence in our words, the judgment, the blame, the criticism that just shuts people down. It's really a way to dig deep and get to the heart of what's actually going on.
So NVC breaks down into four simple-ish steps. First up is observation. That's just saying what you see, plain and simple, no judgment allowed. Then comes feeling, actually naming the emotion you're feeling. Third is need. What's the universal human need that's driving that feeling? And last, you have the request, asking for what you want in a really clear, doable way. So, observation, feeling, need, request. Got it? We're going to use this lens to look at our stories today.
All right, let's dive into our first case study. And this one is a total masterclass in how to make a request. But what's really interesting is who's making it. It's a Roman centurion, an officer in an army that's, occupying the territory. Not exactly the guy you'd expect to be a communication expert.
So here's the setup, and it's pretty tense. This centurion has a servant he cares a lot about, and the guy is literally on his deathbed. He's heard about this healer, Jesus, and he sends a message for help. The stakes are about as high as they can get.
And this is where his communication is just incredible. He actually tells Jesus, don't even bother coming to my house. Instead, he makes this super direct request, just say the word. And why? He bases it on an observation from his own life. He says, look, I'm a man under authority. He gets how chain of command works, and he takes that understanding and applies it as faith. It's wild.
So if we put on our NVC glasses, this is just brilliant, right? The centurion observes a reality, how authority works, and then he makes a crystal clear request. There's no fuzziness, no demanding tone, just this powerful, faith-filled plea. And what happens? The servant is healed, just like that.
Okay, so that was faith. Now let's switch gears and look at a totally different situation. How do you respond not to faith, but to doubt? This time, the question comes from John the Baptist, a huge deal in his own right, who seems to be having a bit of a crisis of faith and sends his own people to get some answers.
And their question is super direct. They basically walk up and ask, are you the one we've been waiting for, or should we keep looking? Think about that. John is essentially asking, are you for real? It's such a vulnerable and honest question, and you can feel the need for clarity, for certainty, just pouring out of it.
Now, I want you to pay close attention to the answer here because it's fascinating. Jesus doesn't just say, yep, I'm the guy. He doesn't give them some complicated theological argument. He just points to what's happening. Pure observation. He basically says, go tell John what you see and hear. And what do they see? The blind can see, the lame are walking, you get the picture. It's a list of verifiable facts. And by doing this, he's empowering John to come to his own conclusion. It's a response that is completely rooted in observation, which is, step one of NVC.
All right, let's get to our final case study. And this one is the most complex. It's basically a drama at a dinner party. We're going to see two totally different communication styles clash head-on. And this is where that NVC framework really, really shines.
Okay, so picture this. Jesus is at a dinner party, hosted by a pretty important religious leader named Simon. And right in the middle of it all, this woman, who everyone knows has a certain reputation, walks in. She starts weeping at Jesus' feet, washing them with her tears, and then anoints them with this incredibly expensive perfume. Can you just imagine the silence in that room? The tension must have been off the charts.
And this is where we get a peek inside the host's head, inside Simon's thoughts. And check out his language. He's not just observing what's happening, he immediately jumps to a judgment, a label, sinner. From an NVC perspective, this is a classic mistake. He's mixing up observation with evaluation, and that is a recipe for total disconnection. He's completely focused on what he thinks she is, not on what she's doing, or, more importantly, why she might be doing it. So Jesus, who obviously picks up on this silent judgment, responds in this absolutely masterful way. He completely flips the script. He takes the focus off of Simon's judgment of the woman and puts it right back on his own observation of Simon's actions, or rather, his lack of action. He points out everything Simon, as the host, didn't do. You didn't give me water for my feet, you didn't greet me with a kiss, you didn't anoint my head with oil. These are just facts, right? Pure, undeniable observations.
And then he creates this brilliant contrast. He puts Simon's inaction right next to the woman's actions, and he describes what she did with that same observational clarity. She used her tears to wash his feet. She wouldn't stop kissing them. She poured perfume on them. See what he did there? He reframes her actions. They're not the actions of a sinner. They're profound expressions of love and gratitude. He just completely bypasses the label and gets straight to the feeling and the need that's driving her.
And just to make sure Simon really gets it, to explain the needs behind their totally different behaviors, Jesus tells a little story, a simple parable about debt, forgiveness, and the feelings that come with it. Okay, so the story is simple, but the point is huge. You've got a moneylender who forgives two people's debts. One guy owes a massive amount, the other owes just a little. Jesus then asks Simon, so which one is going to love the moneylender more? And of course, the answer is obvious. It's the guy who was forgiven the massive debt. So the woman is debtor A. She knows she has this huge need for forgiveness, and when that need gets met, her feeling of gratitude just explodes into action. But Simon, he's debtor B. He doesn't even see that he has a debt, that he has a need, so he feels very little gratitude, and as a result, he does very little.
And that's the final punchline right there. It ties everything we've seen together perfectly. The woman's over-the-top actions, they're a direct result of her massive need being met. And Simon's cold, judgmental attitude, that comes from a total failure to see his own need for that same grace. So you see, it's not really about the labels, sinner versus Pharisee. It's about being aware of what you need. So in the end, looking at these ancient stories through this modern NVC lens, it kind of gives us a timeless challenge, doesn't it? It pushes us to really try to move past the labels, past the snap judgments, and just focus on observation. To look at what people are actually doing, and then ask ourselves, okay, what feeling might be driving this? What deep universal human need is this person trying to meet right now? And that one little shift from judgment to curiosity, from evaluation to empathy, well, that might just be the key to everything.